recently there have been a lot of hot takes going around about the gender swap situation with Sektor and Cyrax in the newest MK game. And I think it's one of those things that is unnecessarily vitriolic. There's way too much tension between different groups, but that is what happens on the internet, and it also happens a lot with anything MK related these days. I think some of this is people not quite being able to properly articulate their issue with it. I mean, obviously there are going to be some people who are just plain old silly nannies who are like, I don't like this for this bad reason. But I think a lot of people do have genuine grievances with it, and I'm going to try and articulate some of the reasons why I don't like it, so that maybe other people can see this and go, yeah, this is what I was trying to get at. I just maybe said it wrong. There have been a lot of people and a lot of videos by the same people that really made this weird race case, and I don't know what this is about. There's one clip that blew up a week or two ago, and I ended up getting like 3,000 likes for turning it down and saying, no, this is a bad argument, this makes no sense. Where someone was making out like Cyrax's race has changed. Okay, so Cyrax has always, in the games, been black, ever since MK Gold, which was Cyrax's second appearance, and that was like 4 or 5 years, something like that, at most, after he debuted. It's a very short time between Cyrax's debut and us seeing his face. And the people who are making out as if Cyrax's face is being shown now to show off the fact that the character is now suddenly black, which is not the case. Cyrax is always, in the games, being black. The only time Cyrax was not black was in Defenders of the Realm, which came out 1 year after he debuted, and that depicted Sektor as black instead, ironically enough. But the face thing here isn't so they can show off the character's race or gender or anything like that. All the MK characters have been doing this. I'm not sure why the face is being shown off is the thing people are latching onto here and making a deal out of, when this is what MK's been moving towards since at least MK11. A little bit since MKX, you know, characters' classic looks like Scorpion and Sub-Zero would have masks on. Then they stopped having masks in the story, started with MKX, and since MK11, the characters went during big cinematic moves, always have their faces shown off. Part of it's because of the gear. You know, like you look in MKX, like Liu Kang rips out the throat and shoves it in the mouth, he would break through masks. But with the customization, that would require all those to be modeled in such a way where they can be broken, so they just removed them. But it's also to show off the facial technology, because they have some impressive facial capture. That's all this is. It's so they can show off the facial capture, and also during the cinematic moves, so they can avoid having presumably the mask where they cut the gear item, so they don't have to show that getting damaged when a character's getting their face punched in, right? That's what it is. That's why they show off the faces so much. Everyone's been doing it. Scorpion spends his most important scenes in this game, in the story, without his mask. His confrontation with his brother, his mask gets cut off, and he's like, I'm going to fight you without my mask and whatnot. This just happens now. It's not because of specific characters, that's just the way MK is. They always show off characters' faces. So this is not that. I think to some people, the mystique of the Cyber Initiative is very important. I understand that. I get why the Cyber Initiative was much more impactful and interesting in the prior versions, where it was this thing forced on basically everyone in the Lin Kuei except Sektor, who was all for it. The rest of them, it was forced upon them, and they would turn into these soulless machines. And there was this horror element to it. It worked very well. I wish they had done more with it. It's just that it tends to be that after the MK3 section in both timelines, the cyber stuff just kind of falls by the wayside. You might get one character in a game, and that's it. But now, in Liu Kang's idealized timeline, it's not cyborgs, it's just power armor. Now, it's possible there is more going on beneath the surface that we've not seen, but as far as we can tell, it looks to just be Iron Man-style power armor, which is, I think, where the Wakanda connection comes from. So a lot of people are talking about Cyrax and comparing it to Wakanda. And I don't think they're really trying to say that this is like something from Black Panther, because that's not what technology in Black Panther is. It's similar to Iron Man. That's indisputable. It's very much like Iron Man, the way the mask opens up and whatnot. That's a very Iron Man thing. So I think what they're trying to convey is that this is like specifically Ironheart as she exists in the MCU, you know, the more mainstream version that there are probably more people familiar with the origin as it's depicted in Black Panther 2, where she debuted, than the original comic version, where she was basically an Iron Man spin-off character, but in the MCU she's more associated with Black Panther because of how she debuted. And I think that's what they're getting at, especially when one of them is this young black woman who is replacing an existing male character. Like, you see what I think they're going for? They're comparing Cyrax to Riri Williams and not to T'Challa's sister. I forget her name at the minute. But I think it's just a case of people are trying to simplify it a bit too much to get the idea across in a tweetable fashion, and it ends up giving the wrong impression. It makes him look rather racist, I'm sure unintentionally, because it's not really a strong enough connection to make to Black Panther, so it looks like you're just saying advanced technology and black person equals Black Panther. I'm going to give these people the benefit of the doubt and assume that's not what they're intended to convey. I think it is trying to compare it to Riri Williams and how terrible that was in the comics for a lot of people, and with the movies were, well, they've not done much with us, not done anything I think with her since, so it's hard to say where that's going to go, if it'll amount to much. But yeah, I think that's what they're actually comparing it to, not just broadly Black Panther. I think they're just wording it the wrong way. But for me, the issue with the Sektor and Cyrax thing is it's an issue that people have with a lot of the changes in this game. Some people, it is just the fact that it's different, and there's no getting around that. Some people will just dislike it when it's not the stuff they're used to. With me, it's a case of the way NetherRealm has set up this new timeline and all of the other alternate timelines. The way it's set up is that every single timeline, as far as we know, they could always retcon it and say, no, there are others that they just didn't know about. Every timeline is created by an existing character when they defeat Kronika and take her Hourglass. Liu Kang, Shang Tsung, and Havoc, all the changes in their timelines, everything that's different from the main timelines prior, is decisions they have made. All the changes are things Liu Kang made. Kuai Liang being Scorpion and being childhood friends with Harumi and being with the Lin Kuei, which is headed by his and Sub-Zero's father before he dies. Other changes like that, Melina being Katana's sister, these are things Liu Kang chose. And in some cases you can rationalise an explanation. I did a whole video doing that, trying to figure out what his motivation was. Why would Liu Kang make them female? What is the benefit to that? What is the point? It is possible that through the story mode, or more likely the arcade endings, we will get some kind of explanation, or maybe just intros. I know a lot of people have been comparing Cyrax now to Jackie Briggs, and I can see where they're coming from. I don't think anyone necessarily thinks this is Jackie, like reimagined in this timeline, the way Takeda has been, but I think there could be something to the idea that it's not actually Cyrax, because the characters are just called Sektor and Cyrax, in the same way that we have Scorpion and Sub-Zero, where they can be replaced by other people. It is possible that what we're going to learn in perhaps Cyrax's ending is that this is not the original Cyrax, the original man who took on the name Cyrax. Liu Kang took him and, like Hanzo, moved him away from all this, tried to give him a different life. The original Cyrax has been moved elsewhere. He's just off in Botswana doing his thing, and he's having a peaceful life away from all this cyberization hell that took his soul so many times. And that with Sektor, maybe he thought, Sektor, bad influence, make him redundant elsewhere. The codename still persists somehow. Perhaps there is something to the idea that some people theorize about the way things went in the previous timeline with, say, Sub-Zero still getting his scar, the same scar in the same place but under completely different circumstances. The idea that the universe itself, like time, is trying to correct itself. Perhaps the universe is kind of rebelling against Liu Kang's vision and is bringing in these ideas for the Lin Kuei, this idea of a Sektor and of a Cyrax and stuff like that. I wouldn't put money down on that, but it is a possibility. But I think it is honestly quite likely that we will get in Cyrax's ending the revelation that it's not the same person, that she, after all this stuff, goes to Botswana or somewhere else and meets the original Cyrax, who has a completely different life, and he'll look just like he did in MK9, just with like a different outfit, something more casual. She'll meet with him and he'll train her in something, maybe give her some moves that she doesn't have that the old Cyrax did, or something to that effect. And I get the feeling that we'll see something like that in the arcade ending. Sektor, probably not, but I think just having that happen with Cyrax would imply the same thing can happen with Sektor. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot of strife in the community surrounding this whole gender swap thing, and to summarize, I think it is a case of people just not quite knowing how to articulate their thoughts and why they feel a certain way, and people will make the situation worse by just calling these people all kinds of bigots because of this, or you just hate women. That's an absurd assumption to jump to, that someone doesn't like an arbitrary, pointless gender swap in a story that necessitates that change not just being a random alteration that just happens to be the case in an alternate universe, but something that a character within the story had to devise and concoct and make it that way. So one of the reasons why a lot of Hanzo stans are turning against Liu Kang, because they view it as he took Scorpion's wife from him and took his life away, gave it to Sub-Zero, and then made him a child who's going to be like the foster son of his old wife. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's a lot easier to be sympathetic towards Hanzo fans, not the ones who will get mad and complain and do the Melina Stan thing of replying to every tweet Ed Boon makes, but the ones who are like, I don't like these changes, here's why. I see, yeah, because it really doesn't make any sense narratively, and NetherRealm's done a poor job of actually justifying any of these changes Liu Kang makes beyond the broad strokes of, let's make the bad guys absolute losers with no power. I think communication is important. I think we should try not to just brand people as some kind of horrible person just because they don't like something. Don't just jump to conclusions of, you dislike this thing. Woman. Oh, that must be the reason. No, don't do that. Try and understand where people are coming from. And if you're not being understood, try not to get angry and ragey and insulty, and try to explain your viewpoint. Why do you not like this? Well, here's why. I think we could maybe cut down on some of the toxicity in the community if more people were willing to talk like this. And I'm not getting off on a high horse and saying, oh, you guys are all don't like. We all do it. We all have those moments where we regrettably will get angry about things when people disagree with us. But we should try not to do it collectively. We can make the community a better place if we can at least say, I disagree. That's fine. You do you. I'll try to do it. I might fail, but I will try. But I think that's the real issues here with Sektor and Cyrax. The fact that they took away the really cool cyber stuff, the cyborg hell that the original Cyber Initiative was. And it feels like what they have is just a rip-off of something else, and they don't have any really solid original ideas to replace what they've taken away. And so people who are fans of the old Sektor and Cyrax, what do they have here? They have the cyber stuff is returning to Iron Man power suits, and the characters are arbitrarily women, seemingly. Hopefully there will be some decent justification in the game, either in the story mode or in the arcade endings or in the pre-fight intros. Be on the lookout for that when the expansion drops. Hopefully there'll be something there that will help to ease your pain over the whole thing. Yeah, the argument about the race thing, that is invalid, just factually, because other than the fact that Cyrax's home country has changed, originally being Botswana, now being Niger, I don't know a lot about the region, so it's possible that over there they could be considered different races. As far as I know, that's not the case, but that's me not knowing. As far as I can tell, the character's race is the same, they just changed the nationality, but that's not what anyone's saying. No one's saying that, as far as I've seen, they are mad about the nationality change, which I guess would be a valid argument. Just make sure that when you do go on these discussions and explaining this stuff, especially if you're going to go into it like an angry rant as the method of delivering your standpoint, you really do need to fact check some things and make sure edit out stuff that is just factually incorrect if you spot it. Cyrax is not Jamaican and has never been Jamaican. I think that's just an assumption that some people make because it's a black man with dreadlocks who has an African accent, and so in their head it sounds Jamaican, so they go, oh, Jamaican, which is not the case. He's never been Jamaican. This version, the old versions, none were Jamaican. I think the original timeline he had an American accent, but that could just be because everyone did. And then in the second timeline, it was very clearly an attempt at least African-ish. And then in the current one, it's the same idea, but perhaps taking specific influence from the way the characters talk in Black Panther, which could be part of a contributing factor in why some people are saying this is just Black Panther because of the accent. I don't know anything about this voice actress. She's not been in a lot of stuff, so I don't know if this is her natural accent or one she's familiar with, or if she just made it up for the role. I don't know. But I do think the whole Wakanda argument is weak. I think the Ironheart argument is much stronger. And make sure that you're not spreading misinformation by saying that, for example, Cyrax was... We didn't see his face for years. We had no idea what he looked like, because it's not true. And of saying that the race has changed, not true. Or that the reason the character's showing their faces all the time is like it's a new thing, when Cyrax went for most of his screen time in MK9, in his actual chapter, unmasked. And Sektor, about half of his screen time in that game, unmasked. Cyrax has had alternate costumes in every game he has appeared in as a playable character, from MK Gold onwards, with his face exposed in an alternate costume. This isn't a new thing. Cyrax has always been doing this, and that's just the way the games currently are now. Everyone shows off their faces to show off the facial tech, and so that they don't have to model broken versions of every single mask, sunglasses, hat, and whatnot for all the finishers and super moves and whatnot. It really is a case of people seeing things that aren't there, the same way the whole Sweet Baby Inc. allegations go, like, there's no proof of that. There's nothing to suggest that is the case. People just make assumptions because they've worked with Warner Bros. They see similar kind of things happening in MK, instead of just concluding that there is perhaps a larger culture at Warner Bros. Or in the gaming industry at large, or entertainment at large, that is moving towards this kind of direction. They see it and go, Sweet Baby Inc. worked on this game, which is... there's no evidence for that. There's nothing to actually suggest that is the case. So please try and be measured and reasonable in the claims you're going to make about this stuff, and the way you try and express your views, why you think this does work, why it doesn't. I'm actually curious to see what people think of the idea of Sektor and Cyrax being women now in a positive light, because I've not seen anyone actually say that. It's one of those where all I see is the people who are against it, and then people who are against the people who are against it, and not the people who actually like it. It reminds me of Demon Sea Devil May Cry was coming out, and I didn't see anyone who said it looked good. They just said, you guys are just whiny little bitches who can't accept change. I guess a lot doesn't actually change in a decade. Things just go in circles, which is actually kind of appropriate for fighting games currently with Noob, Heihachi, and Bison coming back. So, yeah, watch the video about that. Try and be calm and reasonable. Even if the other person is not being calm and reasonable, be above that. Don't stoop to their level. Please try and elevate the conversation to a reasonable point, so we can actually have a conversation and not just a shouting match. And maybe we can actually get somewhere as a result of that. Thanks for listening. Hopefully, NetherRealm will be able to make this work, and this won't have to go on that playlist of every time the Force Nick gave NetherRealm the benefit of the doubt and it blew up in his face.